Hi. I'd like to talk for a few minutes about the power of expectation, the power of imagination, the power of our thoughts. And in this video, I'm just going to share with you a couple of my earliest, really impactful realizations that had to do with the power of expectation and the power of our thoughts. And so the first one I'll share with you has to do with it has to do with martial arts training that I did when I started when I was in junior high. I started doing some martial arts training, and when it came to topics of things like breaking boards, which I have here, a re-breakable board, it's really equivalent in strength and the difficulty of breaking. It's equivalent to an actual board. A little more environmental friendly though, because you can break it over and over, and it's still, you don't have to have a whole stack of boards to do that. And so, anyway, though, when I first started looking at these ideas of breaking boards, it seemed kind of scary to me. So, going back to junior high age, I saw people breaking boards, but I thought to myself, somehow, maybe I can't do it. Maybe it's, what if I break my hand? What if I hit it and the bones of my hand just shatter? What if it hurts really bad? What if my hand just bounces off the board? What if I can't do it? So the more that I imagined thoughts like this, the scarier it seemed and the more impossible it seemed. And it just seemed like this insurmountable challenge if I imagined it that way. And so this is really the very first lesson. If you look at a board, you look at any situation, any kind of a challenge, any kind of a situation, and you start imagining that you can't do it, you start imagining bad things, terrible things. You're going to a party, you're imagining, what if nobody likes me? What if people, think I'm a dork? What if people think I'm, I don't know. What if I'm just not? You start imagining these bad things. It's going to put you in a state to where you're really not going to get your best results. What if you're going for a job interview or, some type of a business meeting and you're imagining a negative outcome? Well, you're going to come across as not confident, but also your mind is going to be preoccupied with all of these fears, and so you're going to really not be able to access the inspiration and the really great ideas that you otherwise might have rising up from the unconscious mind. And so it's really, really a powerful thing. So when it came to the breaking boards, what I learned on that was if you want to break the board, first off, choose to do it, commit to it. And then what you want to do is instead of imagining bad things happening, you want to imagine it the way you want it to be. So before I try to break this board, if I just put myself in the right state of mind, I want to, cast away all the fears, just let go of them. I want to imagine myself breaking it. I'm going to imagine I'm hitting it. I'm going to imagine that I can be successful. And I need to imagine not only do I hit it here and then possibly my hand bounce off and the board not break, but I need to imagine that I strike it and not only hit it on the surface, but that my hand travels all the way through the board and I'm successful in breaking the board. So you want to imagine the outcome that you actually desire. And again, this is not just about breaking boards. This is about anything. It's about going on a date. It's about a business meeting. It's about any kind of a situation. You want to imagine the outcome that you actually want. And then rather than being fearful, I'm going to put myself in the right state, the state of success. And so to break the board, I maybe choose how I'm going to strike it. I'm going to decide in my mind, what does success look like? Well, success looks like I strike it like this. I feel totally confident doing this. And my hand is going to travel right through the board. So I'm not going to have a hesitancy. I'm not going to be like, oh, I don't know. And I hit it and just hit it on the surface and hurt my hand. I'm not going to do that. So I have to imagine the outcome that I want. The outcome that I want is that I'm going to travel all the way through it successfully, no problem. So shall I do it? Okay, I'll do it as a demonstration. Ha! So you just do it. Okay. So, sorry, that's probably a little loud on the microphone, but I broke the board. It looks like I broke a little bit of wood off the little stools that I had set up there as well. But anyway, that's okay, just as a prop. So let me go ahead and pull the chair up here so I can kind of focus on the camera a little bit more. All right, so that's the first thing. What are you imagining in your life? When you start off the day, are you just floating along the day, or are you imagining bad things are going to happen? If you go to work, you do a job, you do a meeting, what expectation do you have going into that? You really want to choose them. So let me give you another story that I had. When I was in high school, I had a great opportunity to attend a leadership conference, and it was a type of event that I'd never been to. I grew up on a farm in the countryside. This was off in the big city on a college campus, but it was a really excellent leadership conference. And there were a number of educational things, a lot of team building of things, a lot of things that stretched us to grow and learn. But we also had a lot of really fun events. So one of the fun events that we had was in the evening one night. There was a stage hypnotist that came. Now, some of you may have participated in these events before. Maybe you've been on the stage and been hypnotized, or maybe you've seen it happen. But essentially, there were a whole bunch of people in the audience. There was a professional stage hypnotist there. He selected some volunteers from the audience. And of course, I was excited to try this. And I got selected as one of the individuals to come up to the stage. So at this time in my life, I would say I was a person who, probably wasn't very confident. I would say that I was scared to speak in front of a group of any size at that time. I would get incredibly nervous even just to speak in front of the class. And so to be up on stage in front of, these hundreds of people is kind of a big deal. And I normally would have been very nervous and uncomfortable, awkward, and probably would have not wanted to say anything in a situation like that. But anyway, I got selected. I went up on stage, and so through this process of hypnosis, essentially what the hypnotist did was, put us into, kind of lead us into a very relaxed and suggestive state, and then give us suggestions, which you have the choice to play along with it or not. But of course, it was very successful. It seemed that we were all willing to play along with it because it was presented kind of in a fun way. And so we took the suggestions. And so I certainly took the suggestions. And so what happened was a number of things. We ended up, at some point, I was like a duck flying through the sky, and different things happened. But kind of the grand finale, I ended up being like a star in a rock band. And so I'm up on stage, and I imagine I'm like in a group like Bon Jovi or something, and I'm up on stage. And of course, we didn't actually have real instruments. We were just imagining that we had instruments and we're singing along. There was music there to help it, but it was interesting because in the state that we had gotten into in this hypnosis, it seemed very, very real. And so I remember being up there and just really feeling like I was a superstar. And so I'm jumping around and I'm like singing, and I imagine that everybody in the audience loves me. That's what I felt like. It was this very exhilarating kind of feeling. It was really exciting. I felt really amazing. There was no nervousness at all. It was just fun being up there and being this star that I felt myself to be during this session of hypnosis. And I remember later like jumping off the stage and, signing autographs and things like this. It was just ridiculous, but it was super, super exciting. So the interesting thing is, did I have to become a different person to be that superstar that I was during that hypnosis activity? Or did I simply have to be in a different state and imagining different things? Well, the answer really is that I just had to have different imagination going on in mind. And so I realized, like, wow, I'm capable of all these different things. I could be this person on stage, super fearful, super nervous, super scared to speak. I could be imagining that, what if everybody hates me? What if nobody likes me? What if nobody wants to hear what I have to say? I could imagine all those things. And it would be very, it would just be like, the anxiety would be very intense. But I also am capable of being that person who's up on stage just having an absolute blast and having absolutely zero concern in the world that there's anything negative to even imagine. And so that was a really powerful realization to me. And so, but this is a practical thing, because what I'm telling you is the power of your imagination, the power of expectation is a very, very powerful thing. So you can use this in practical ways. I'll give you some examples. There's so many, but I remember a situation I had years ago with a place that I worked at the time, and I had kind of a supervisor at this organization who in my assessment, had a really negative attitude, was really unpleasant to deal with, was very controlling, kind of micromanaging. And I ended up reacting negatively to this individual and just really dreading when this person came around. And so I didn't like having this person present. I felt very uncomfortable when the person was around, had a negative view of them. And I believe that because, people pick up on things, whether fully consciously or even on an unconscious level, people tend to sense things. And so even if you feel like you haven't said something, but you'll tend to give off subtle nonverbals, people can often pick up if you have a negative view of them, or if there's, something going on, you're not really feeling warm and loving and accepting toward this individual. So I believe what happened is kind of perpetuate back and forth. So I would say that it started with some behaviors of this individual. I believe I was reactive to it, had a negative view of that person. That person then sensed that I had a negative view and kind of reacted back, having kind of a negative view of me. So it seemed like we had this very strained, uncomfortable working relationship for some period of time. But then I started realizing, hey, what if I were to change my expectation? Now, can you change the other person? Well, what if you don't have to? What if you just simply say, well, let me take responsibility for my own self? Studying as a Christian, studying the Bible, we're told that the most important thing is to love God and to love one another. So to love others. So do I have responsibility to control every action of other people? Well, I can try to influence them. I can try to encourage them. I can try to share wisdom with them. I can do all those things. But ultimately, we all have our own free choice of so many things. And so we're not really here to control everybody, but I'm here to make choices for myself. I need to choose for myself who I am, what I'm going to think, how I'm going to behave, how I'm going to treat others. So I thought, okay, well, what if I could just let go of every negative feeling of this person? What if I could just have that loving feeling toward them? What if I could really just open my heart and mind and just have compassion and love for this person and think, hey, you know what? Their attitude, it's kind of their own issue. I hope it will improve, but there's no reason for their uh, negative behaviors and their negative ways to really influence me negatively. You don't want like the dark to put out the light. Let the light shine on. So I thought, okay, I have responsibility to be a better version of myself. So then what do? I start just doing a little meditation, just a little quiet meditation. Then I imagine the person, imagine what feelings rise up, and then just let them go. And imagine again what feelings rise up and have all these, memories of negative conversations and things would rise up. Just let them go. And then as I look at this person in my imagination, imagine them, and then just, can I imagine them in a positive way? Can I imagine them, kind of as a beautiful, wonderful person that, they're also made in God's image. They may have some shortcomings, as we all do, but can I imagine them with love? And so as I kept imagining and letting go of these negative feelings, and eventually able to imagine this person with just kind of a joyful feeling, like, you know what, I could see with humor whatever might seem like a negative behavior or negative type things they might say. Just imagine with humor and be non-reactive to it. So once I got to the state that I could imagine them with love and just be joyful thinking about them, it's really remarkable the transformation that took place. It took place way more quickly than I even imagined possible. I thought I would have to work at this for, maybe for weeks or months before anything would begin to change. But it literally was almost instantaneous. Once I got myself to that state, could imagine this person just in a joyful, accepting, loving state, that almost immediately, the very first week I started doing this, it really just transformed. This person just seemed to lighten up. It almost like overnight, they became a huge fan of mine. And they looked like they were excited when they saw me. They would speak with enthusiasm to me. It seemed like they had new respect for me. Just everything changed. So I think people do tend to be reactive, and we can utilize that in a very positive and powerful way. And so I took it from a negative to a positive. Now I've done this many, many other times. It tends to be very successful. I think of a number of years ago, I was doing some seminars, and without going into the details, I would tell you that I was within some audiences of people that, how should I say, were not really there by their own free will. Let's just say it that way. They didn't really have a choice to be there. They were ordered to be there. So many of them arrived, probably not wanting to be there. And me understanding the situation, kind of was anticipating, hey, these people don't really want to be here. And going in with that mindset, it really was a very strange situation. It didn't really flow very well. And so I realized very quickly that I had to change my expectation. And so what I began doing was, before these sessions, imagining things going really, really well, imagining myself being there, imagining myself feeling positively toward all these individuals, being non-reactive, imagining just wonderful things about them, regardless of the circumstances that they were in or that we were in together. And just, once I began to expect something wonderful and just believe something wonderful was going to happen, I found that surely I came across in a different way, that people would pick up on that. There I was expecting something wonderful. I got far better reactions from people, and these sessions turned into a great joy. And so this is real practical stuff. Our expectations, what we're imagining, what we're expecting, is really, really important. So if you're going to speak in front of a group of people and you're nervous, you're imagining that it's going to be all stressful, stop doing that. Instead, choose. Is that what I want to choose? Do I want to choose to be nervous and for things to go badly? Or can I choose something else, and do I want to choose something else? You can totally choose something else if you want to. So you could say, hey, I'm going to choose to be up there. I'm going to be comfortable. I'm going to be confident. I'm going to be warm. I'm going to, put people at ease. I'm going to, be encouraging. I'm going to be positive. It's going to be a wonderful session. And as you begin expecting this, your unconscious mind will really kick in and give you ideas on specifically, what do you say, how do you say it, how do you come across, how do you present yourself, what do you do that is going to cause that to come about. And so, imagine how you want to be. If you go to bed and you're thinking, oh man, what if I oversleep in the morning? Well, if you imagine that, it may happen. So instead, before you go to bed at night, just imagine how you want it to be. Hey, I'm going to wake up at 5:30 in the morning. I'm going to wake up, 2 minutes before the alarm goes off. I'm going to feel rested. I'm going to feel alert. I'm going to feel energetic. I'm going to wake up. I'm going to be ready for a wonderful day. So you can actually choose before you go to bed how you want to wake up in the morning. And, if you put yourself in a receptive state, you're kind of relaxed, and you tell yourself this and you choose this is really what you want, it absolutely can come about. And so I found, I can tell you more about some specific ways to use these techniques, but essentially I can tell you, I also learned that was totally possible. I began doing that when I was in high school, where I found that before I went to bed, I could tell myself, hey, I'm going to wake up at 6 o'clock, or I'm going to wake up at 5:30, whatever time. I'm going to just wake up automatically with no alarm clock. And I found that I could absolutely do that. And so I've been able to do that since high school, since I first learned that that was possible to do. So it's absolutely possible, and you can do it as well. So let me tell you a couple more stories kind of these expectations. Several years ago, I was living in Asia. I'd been living in Asia for many years, and I planned a trip back to the United States. And there was a company that I'd done some business with from Asia that was back in the United States. And I knew quite a bit about this corporation, and I actually wanted to sit down and speak with the top two executives, the president, CEO, the top two executives of this corporation. I knew that they were located in Minneapolis. I'd never been to their actual location before. But I was testing out some of these ideas, and I thought to myself, hey, I wonder if I absolutely expect that I'm going to speak with these gentlemen, that can just come about. Now, of course, you may say you could prepare some other things, you could have some communication advance, things like that. We certainly could, but I was really testing out some of these ideas. And so what I determined in my mind was I was going to imagine it coming about. And when I flew from Asia, I flew into Los Angeles. I rented a car in Los Angeles. And I decided I was going to do a road trip from Los Angeles, kind of around the country. So I traveled in my rental car from Los Angeles all the way to Minneapolis, Minnesota. So it was a pretty long drive. But I told myself, I'm not going to really plan exactly what day and time I'm going to arrive, but I'm just going to imagine in my mind that I'm arriving at the perfect time. I'm arriving at the right time, and whenever I arrive, it's going to be the right time. I'm going to show up, and I'm just going to be there to meet these two gentlemen, and it's going to happen. And so, interestingly enough, when I arrived, I actually found the location quite easily. And of course, you might have thought, how would you even know that these gentlemen would even be at the company at this time? I mean, they could be anywhere in the country or around the world. They may not even be there. But I just believed that it would happen and that my unconscious mind somehow would bring it about if I really believed it. And so I showed up at the company. I found it very easily without using GPS. And I pull up, I end up walking in the building, and I just walk in with confidence. And I just say, hey, I just came in from Asia, and I'm here actually to meet with these gentlemen. I mentioned them by name. And remarkably enough, I ended up just going right in and meeting with them. So it was kind of just perfect. It was exactly like I imagined that it just happened. And it did happen. I had a really nice conversation with both of them. And so it really happened exactly as I imagined. Now, if I were to go back and think something differently, what if I were to think like, hey, I'm not really important enough to meet these gentlemen, or they wouldn't want to talk to me, or it'd be too impossible to get a meeting with them. If I were to imagine things like that, I would never have taken any action. So sometimes just believing that something's possible, then you will have the courage to take the action that's actually going to take for it to happen. So that's part of it. But also showing up, if I were to show up and like, oh, hey, is there any possibility I could meet these guys? And, well, who are you? If you're doubtful about it, you're going to get a very different response as well. And so I think that was a piece of it as well. I showed up, I was confident, I was like here for a purpose, I'm here to meet them. I wasn't forceful in a rude way, but I just showed up with the certainty and confidence that I was there to meet them. And it ended up all happening exactly like I imagined. So I have many, many, many more stories of that, but hopefully I've kind of shared enough with you that you kind of get the idea. Think to yourself as you're going into situations, what are you imagining? Or are you even aware of what you're imagining? Are you just kind of floating into situations and just letting it kind of go however it goes? Or are you being intentional about it? And then that's the first part. And then, of course, if you're imagining negative things, you say, well, is this what I want? Because that's what I'm imagining. Or would I like to imagine something else and choose something else? You have to choose what you want. I studied with a master in Asia for quite some time. This was years back, but one of the most profound things I remember this master telling me was, you have to choose what you want. You must decide what you want. And I think that's very true. That's the most important thing for us here in this human life. We have to make choices. And so, realize this is a choice. I have to choose what I want. And so, anyway, what are you choosing for your day, for your meeting, for your work, for the speech that you're going to give, for the letter that you're going to write, for the person that you're going to go visit, whatever it is? What are you imagining? And then, see it as you want it to be. See yourself as you want yourself to be. See yourself and imagine yourself feeling the way you want to feel, being the way you want to be, speaking the way you want to speak. Imagine it all that way, and you can bring it about. So hope this is helpful. Please like the video, share some comments. I would love for you to share some stories of how these ideas have helped you, how you've applied these, how you found these same ideas to be very, very true and powerful in your own life. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.